Well, the Xbox show has come and gone, and it is pretty safe to say that Starfield stole the show. And if you're anything like me, you probably didn't care that much. I am piteously indifferent to the title of Starfield, and whilst I like science fiction, I don't like it nearly as much as I like fantasy. No, we're here to talk about something else. We're here to talk about the curious absence of Avowed. Now, Avowed was first announced roughly 2 years ago in the form of a trailer, and it got a lot of people excited, myself included. In large measure, because people such as myself and others are, frankly speaking, enthusiasts and aficionados of the setting of Pillars of Eternity. If you've checked out my channel, you will have noticed that in addition to Baldur's Gate 3 content, which I produce fairly prolifically, I have also produced content on Aora/Avowed/Pillars of Eternity, because I really like that setting a lot. It is one of my favorite settings of all time, in fact. But we were sorely disappointed when Avowed was not shown, because it was a safe assumption that something would have been shown, even concept art, but no, nothing. And I did a little digging, and it seems to be the case that various people who pay attention to these things, above all Jason Schreier, who is a well-known games journalist who has insider contacts, has said that Avowed has struggled with some development pains. Not that they're in development hell, but that they've had some issues and they've had to reboot the game at least once, which is to say start from scratch. And I have to say that this type of news is never encouraging, because we've seen this story with BioWare, for example, where you have people in the development team leave, even directors leave, new people need to be brought up to snuff, and it just leads to a downward spiral of when is the game going to be released, and if it's released, will it in fact be a good game, will it be complete? And I have to say, finding out about the fact that Avowed has had some growing pains has not been very encouraging. Because in fact, to be perfectly honest, and this isn't just me, because I've seen comments elsewhere throughout the interwebs, that most people who are quote-unquote excited about Avowed, and I am quote-unquote excited, are in fact actual Pillars of Eternity fans, which is to say, we have a background in the game, we love the setting, and I, for one, as well as others, I've observed this, would prefer the continuation of the isometric series, Pillars of Eternity, set in Aora. However, Pillars of Eternity 2 did not sell very well. It's finally broken even, from what I've gathered. And so there is no reason for them to be doing that. Maybe if Avowed were to be a success, they might do something like that. However, Avowed seems to me to be this sort of compromise between appealing to the masses, because let's be honest, isometric RPGs are not games that have mass appeal. That's just the nature of the beast. And people who love the setting of Pillars of Eternity. And so I have to conclude that Avowed was conceived to be a compromise between these very different demographics, the isometric types and the people who are more into the Skyrim-esque type of game. And don't get me wrong, I love Skyrim. I have a lot of hours in Skyrim. But let's be perfectly honest, they are very different beasts indeed, in terms of genre. Even though there's going to be another showing of Xbox content later this year, I think it's unrealistic to be hopeful about any sort of Avowed content being shown to the public this year, even if it's just concept art, which, to be honest, I would have been grateful for, but whatever. And I think it's far more realistic to expect Avowed content, if at all, next year. It could be because of the seeming fact that they had to completely restart the project, at least based on statements made by gaming journalists and other insiders, that Avowed will not be released until 2025. And at the earliest, probably 2024 sometime. And if you want to get really, really, really hopeful, which I doubt, something like late 2023. But that's unlikely. So, disappointing news. I had hoped for some content from Avowed, because it is the only lifeline to this world that I love, and this setting that other people love, but alas, nothing came of it. As I said, never encouraging when you hear that there are development issues and games need to be restarted or rebooted, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. In any event, it's quite far away. Not as far away as, say, Elder Scrolls 6, which is probably something like 2027, at the earliest 2026, but probably 2027 or 2028, but nonetheless, relatively far away. But as always, thank you for tuning in. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and I will check you out later with more content. Take care.